Children's fears are just as strong as any adult's fear. It may even be more.
I was in a state of despair. I didn't know where to turn. I thought that I was just going mad.
Anxiety is the most common psychological disorder in children today. Anxiety and fear are feelings and emotions that we have in response to danger, either real or perceived.
Anxieties are part of the natural development of a child. So when a child begins to feel anxious as part of a natural development, what's happening is that the child is learning to expand their comfort zones because they're preparing for life later on. Usually, even the most intense childhood fear can dissipate within 2 years, but that doesn't mean that it isn't felt and it isn't intense, and that doesn't mean something shouldn't be done about it either.
In cases of extreme or sustained anxiety, the brain can respond with dramatic physical reactions.
Billy was always an anxious child. He was born screaming, he never stopped screaming. He was about 18 months old when I noticed that there was a real problem with anxiety. It was when we were in Spain on holiday, and it was fiesta time, and every night as it got dark the fireworks started, and every night Billy would huddle into a ball and start to cry. He would have panic attacks where he would literally stop breathing. He'd go red in the face and stop breathing because he'd get himself so wound up, and that's when I started to think that there really is a problem here and we really should get something sorted.
My diagnosis of Billy was based on classical principles. In acupuncture, we associate different emotional states with different meridian systems or organ systems. Anxiety we would associate more with the kidneys, but sometimes they all run into each other, and when one organ system is really playing up, then all the others will start to get affected as well. When you're treating children, the emphasis is much more on what you pick up with your hands. And to do that, you want to feel the tummy and the skin generally, and also take the pulse.
Billy was absolutely terrified in that first meeting. We sat in Oran's office and he screamed. Screamed and screamed and screamed so much that the receptionist came up to find out what was happening.
As with all treatment plans, it had to be adjusted as soon as I met Billy. Normally I would hope to treat in the first session, but Billy was so terrified and traumatized by being in the clinic that I realized that I could do almost nothing except try and win his trust. Shortly before he was due to leave, and I just stuck a small, what I call a takeaway needle. It's a tiny ball bearing on a piece of tape, and I stuck that on the back of his neck to help release his shoulders. It was quite interesting that at that point he was screaming and shouting quite a lot, but as soon as the press ball went on, he calmed down. Billy has a lot of tension up here in his shoulders. So what this is going to do is just start to soften the muscles up around here, and I think that's going to help release some of the muscular tension, and I think that will help with some of the anxiety, soften his shoulders a bit.
Great. Oran then showed me with the silver teaspoon how to do a treatment with Billy, sort of down the arms and the legs and the back, and that's what I was to do with Billy at home.
Shonishin is a style of pediatric acupuncture stimulation which doesn't involve insertion of needles. Shonishin tools are generally made of metal and are used to stroke the skin or tap the skin. For example, a silver teaspoon would make a very good Shonishin rubbing instrument. In acupuncture, we consider that energy flows in meridians, and in Shonishin what we do is we stroke some of those meridians, particularly the ones that run along the back or the backs of the arms and legs, to try and stimulate movement and regulate qi. What's nice about Shonishin is that not only is it something that the practitioner does for the child, but the practitioner also teaches the mother or father to do for the child. So it's something that is done as homework and can be done every day at home. The second treatment, I'd learnt my lesson and had vowed not to make any move to touch Billy or approach him, but instead I treated his mum. And then the back, so I'll come down here and come down here. And what was wonderful is, well, after I treated his mum, he delivered his little bunny rabbit, Bun Bun, and asked me to treat his rabbit so that he would see that things could happen in the treatment area which weren't kind of fatal or catastrophic. And I was amazed that in the third treatment, Billy came up to me and sat on my lap straight away. And then he allowed me to put him on the table and take his pulse and give him some Toyohari treatment. Toyohari is another system of acupuncture which also has evolved in Japan. It's a very classical based acupuncture system, and it was developed specifically by blind practitioners. What's very distinctive about it is, again, no needles are inserted. They're simply held over the skin. Sometimes the needles aren't even the sharp pointy ones that we associate with acupuncture, but are again very rounded or blunted tools which are used just to stimulate the energy system. What's beautiful about Toyohari is that it's painless, and it can be used for adults and of course for children. The response to that was very good. I phoned again for a follow-up interview a couple of weeks later, and the parents were really delighted with his progress and described him as a different child.
I found the changes came quite soon afterwards. He was sleeping a lot better through the night. He also had night terrors, which were curbed a little. He was able to walk down the street without holding my hand. His potty training was going incredibly well. We went out on bonfire night to a fireworks display, and this was, I thought, going to be a real problem. It was absolutely amazing. He sat in his buggy and he looked and said, "Oh, look at the pretties."
Anxiety is incompatible with the feeling of relaxation, and that means you can't be afraid and relaxed at the same time. So therapies that can help a child relax will be very good for alleviating and dealing with anxiety. The mind and the body are connected, and how you think about something can cause a physical response. Sometimes a child can experience one traumatic event, and that event can then lead to an anxiety problem.
Richard first started stammering when he was 8 or 9. I didn't actually know. The school did ask me if Richard had ever had speech therapy, and I didn't know what they were talking about. And it was coming up to the summer holidays. Richard started stammering at home then, and I noticed it, and it just got worse.
I began to stutter soon after my dad refused to see me anymore. He promised to come take me on a holiday. Then he said it was all paid for, and then I never saw him again.
He went very quiet. He wouldn't go out. He wouldn't mix apart from with friends that he'd known for a long time. And he just sort of withdrew into himself. He didn't, you know, sort of really bother with anyone.
Where I began to start, children used to mock me, and I was pushed to speak better, but that would only ever make things worse. And then I began to lose my confidence in myself, and I'd stutter more. And where I stuttered more, people would mock me more, and I would just lose my confidence again, and it would go down in a spiral of decline.
Well, we tried conventional things. Richard went to speech therapy. He'd done that for a couple of years, but it wasn't working, and Richard wasn't happy. And Richard, all he wanted to do was speak fluently. And I'd thought about hypnotherapy, but I wasn't certain about it. I went to the library, read books, spoke to the doctor, and I thought, well, why not try it? It's all that was left for Richard.
When I first met Richard, he stammered incredibly, so strongly that it was really difficult to understand what he was saying on the first occasion. Tell me, when you do feel calm and relaxed, where do you feel that in your body? My job was to find out how stammering made him feel and what he wanted to achieve through coming to me. Stammering is certainly exacerbated by anxiety. It's sometimes caused by anxiety. And also the fact that he didn't stammer if he was on his own, or if he was with his mother, or if he was with his best friend, clearly shows that anxiety played a major part in Richard's stammering.
Straight away, she was helping me, and it was like I'd known her for a long time, and I just felt very relaxed around her.
All right. So it's a warm feeling inside.
Yeah.
Okay. The most important thing too was to find out how he felt when he wasn't stammering. And I always remember that he used the words fluid, that he could speak fluidly rather than fluently. And one of the important things for me was to pick up on what he said. So when later in the therapy I fed back to him how he wanted to feel, how he was feeling when he was speaking, was to use his words and to assure him that he was speaking fluidly. So Richard, I'd like you to place your attention on your fingertips. Well, the difference between hypnosis and hypnotherapy is that hypnosis is what I would call the trance state, and hypnotherapy is what you do with that person when they're in the state in order to help them achieve the goal that they want to achieve. That's right, and as your hand just lifts, so your eyelids get heavier and heavier. That's it. That's excellent. For in a few moments' time we're going to speak to your unconscious mind.
You knew exactly what was going on, but your subconscious was sort of in control of what you were doing, and Linda would speak to me through my subconscious.
You will speak clearly, fluidly, fluently. The words will come out of your mouth, just flowing out.
When I was hypnotised, she would target what I said, like I wanted to feel more confident, and just help me feel more confident in my subconscious.
We could get him to use those good feelings on the inside to take those with him into the outside world. Inside, you feel so good, you feel so confident.
I remember once before I started going to see Linda, I tried to order a meal, but I stuttered, and the cashier sort of pushed me into hurrying up, and I just remember walking out crying because it was such a horrible experience. And it was just a small thing, but it was like I always wanted to do, just be able to order something. And thanks to Linda, my confidence improved so much that I just went in there one day, ordered without any problems whatsoever, and I just felt so good in myself. And I just knew then that I was on the road to recovery.
Richard had the most amazing response to hypnotherapy. He was so responsive that after the first session he began to feel so much better, which of course allowed his confidence to build. And over 3 or 4 weeks it was just the most dramatic rise. Everybody noticed, and that made him feel good and reinforced everything, so he just went from strength to strength.
When I was about 12 and I had the stutter, I always felt like I was on an outcast, looking into people and seeing them have normal lives, and I just didn't feel normal. But now I feel like I'm a part of that group and I just feel welcome.
Well, he's just a happy, normal teenager now. He speaks fluently, he's full of confidence, and he's just a totally different person. And it was the best thing that I ever done.
For more information, visit our website discoveryhealth.co.uk/complementary kids.